Good afternoon. Hey, by the way, we will have statements available after the presentation, so I'll bring it back. I'm Sheriff Mike Chapman of Loudoun County Sheriff's Office. Today I'm pleased to announce the arrest of the suspect in the brutal double homicide in Sterling on August 28th. The suspect is a known MS-13 gang member who was not in our country legally. At approximately 4:33 a.m. that day, Michal Conera Romero, a 22-year-old female from Sterling, and her friend, Diego Alexander Roulette, a 22-year-old male from Arlington, were shot and killed following an apparent altercation in the 2100 block of Ridgetop Circle, commercial and residential area in Sterling. In the hours and days that followed, our office put extraordinary around-the-clock resources into investigating what happened and identifying the person or persons involved in this homicide. Our investigation involves several of our law enforcement partners throughout the region, to include the U.S. Marshal Service, the Alexandria Police Department, which is represented here by Lieutenant Tony Moore and members of his team. I also want to thank Bob Anderson to my left, our Commonwealth's attorney, for his assistance with this case, and so many others as we work together to keep Loudoun safe. Bob will be speaking after me. I also want to thank the community for all the tips and the other help we received with our investigation. We could not have identified the suspect without their help, and we value their information and vigilance of our community. Most importantly, I want to acknowledge the extraordinary members of the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office. The investigation included numerous patrol units who canvassed over 320 residential units and 30 businesses, along with more than a dozen detectives and members of our dive canine, drone, and search and rescue units. It also included the use of 39 search warrants and the work of our crime analysts who reviewed over 950 hours of video, multiple cell phones and laptops, along with tower dumps, license plate readers, and other analysis. Now to the arrest. On October 23rd at approximately 6:01 p.m., in the 4100 block of Mount Vernon Avenue, Alexandria, police officers there recognized the suspect from a law enforcement bulletin and we shared with our partners. Thanks to their initiative, they were able to arrest Marlene Medrano Ortiz, 18 of Alexandria, who was working in collaboration with the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office and the U.S. Marshal Service. This is a picture from him. Marlene Ortiz was charged with second-degree murder and the use of a firearm in commission of a felony. This continues to be an ongoing investigation. Additional charges related to the death of both victims will be forthcoming. We look forward to seeing justice served for our victims of this crime, and this arrest sends a strong message that violence in Loudoun County will not be tolerated. We will find you, arrest you, and prosecute you. There is a bigger picture, too. I'm on the record strongly opposed to the presence of MS-13 and other violent gangs in our nation and local communities. MS-13 is an El Salvador-based gang that uses intimidation, crime, and violence as a tool of the trade, and there should be no safe place for them here. I am also on record opposing the casual treatment of persons in this country illegally who commit crimes against U.S. citizens and others. Our agency is one of the only ones in the metro area that works cooperatively with U.S. Customs and Immigration when one of them are in our custody, and through that collaboration with we've reported about 100 of them in the past year who are no longer at risk here in Loudoun County. Today's arrest is not an isolated matter. MS-13 operates throughout Northern Virginia, and just this summer, Loudoun experienced one of the most horrific crimes in memory. As you recall, on July 28th, carjacking at 7-Eleven on Route 7 resulted in the death of Melody Waldecker, a 54-year-old grandmother who was in Loudoun County to check out her mom, who was in an assisted living facility. apprehended the suspect that day, who was also not in our country legally, having entered California from El Salvador. He was initially charged with carjacking, and after the good work of our Commonwealth attorney, he was charged with first-degree murder this week by a local grand jury. I will now turn this over to Commonwealth Attorney Bob Anderson for his comments, after which we'll take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So let me first say that it's been a pleasure to be involved in this investigation. The Sheriff's Department's done a tremendous job. When we found out that the incident occurred, and I'll recognize Nicole Whitman, who's the Deputy Commonwealth Attorney, she was down at the scene with me at day one, and we were informed as to how the investigation was going. Now we have an arrest, and I will tell you that this person was arraigned today in the General District Court in Loudoun County, Virginia. He has a preliminary hearing scheduled for December 5th. And so that's at 1 o'clock. To be able to be part of this investigation, knowing what we know from day one, when Nicole and I were down there, it's really impressive that we were able, the Sheriff's Department was able to make an arrest and have a charge brought forward in this particular case, because it wasn't an easy case. It was very difficult. And I have to tell you that from the perspective that I have, it's really a pleasure working with the Sheriff's Department and working with the dedicated people who have the sophisticated techniques that they use to be able to come to this point with this individual. So I am extremely happy to be able to be a part of that process and be able to work with these people because they're truly dedicated. There's just no question about it. We have not, this is not totally unique as far as the severity of these cases that occur within this county. It's a sad commentary, but I mean, we're at a point in time where there have been, since January 1, when I first took office, a number of cases involving a charge of murder. And that's no longer a total extraordinary event that occurs within this county. We're growing at a point where I can tell you from experience, I used to be the Commonwealth Attorney a little while ago, and we just didn't have this type of activity. So this activity brings a needed uptick in the sophistication that's used and the dedicated people that are involved. And you can be proud that that's where we are right now, the state of affairs within Loudoun County and the criminal justice system. So, thank you for having me here. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer anything you have.
What was the motive behind this?
The motive behind the motive that we just made the arrest for, we're still working on that. We have to, it's an ongoing investigation. There's very little that we can say. We're just very pleased that we're able to work so cooperatively with our counterparts from the Commonwealth Attorney's Office to identify this person and get him under arrest. And as I expressed earlier, the amount of effort that went into this was extraordinary. I'm very, very proud and pleased with
When you do reports of a flood, you know what the time is now.
we're still investigating it, so we can't really get into the details of that, and that'll come out in time.
Did you victim know the suspect or what their relationship? Did they know one another? Because you said it was a targeted attack previously.
We're still working on that, and again, it's an ongoing investigation. There's not much that we can say with regards to any kind of a connection or non-connection between the suspects and the victims here, and that's why we want to try to keep it rather vague at this point until the case really comes together, because it remains an ongoing investigation.
Just one thing though, I guess when you were explaining about maybe the how to enter officer, you said that the officers had a full attention. Was this like a license plate facial recognition? I just wondered how the officers knew that this suspect was one.
We put a bulletin out with regards to a photograph of this individual, and if I'm correct, that's what the identification came. They were able to arrest him on another charge and identify him as a suspect that was involved in our case.
Was it like a traffic stop, or just I just wondered what was sort of?
I'd have to.
So it was stop. So it's really recognized the individual walking in the area based off the poster was provided by the Loudoun County deputies.
how did you identify him as a suspect?
Well, I think that we identified him as, when I talked about all the work that went into this, all the scouring the entire neighborhood, all the communications, all the door knocking they did, all the people they talked to in that community. There was a whole lot of legwork that went into this to just identify who was in that community, and we had a lot of help from the citizens in that. And then when we started adding on to that with all the other analysis that went, when you talk about license plate readers, you talk about phone analysis, you talk about everything that we could do to try to narrow down within that particular area who was involved, who may have been involved in this. We were able to narrow it down to we were able to identify them. But aside from that, I can't really go into any more detail than that. All I can tell you is that it was just an extraordinary amount of work and involved just a boatload of people.
And who identified him as an MS-13 member? The FBI?
He's identified by HSI, by Customs, and by us. He's self-identified as well.
Does he have tattoos?
I don't know if he has tattoos or not.
When you say we know this, so you mentioned gang, and you mentioned MS-13, and you mentioned Zays. So that could lead us to conclude that this was gang related, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Maybe this guy is in a gang and he just had a beef with somebody. There's some pretty horrific things that MS-13 will do if you don't pay them. If you look at them the wrong way, if you disrespect them, if they don't like you. So is this an aspect, is this crime committed based on something involving MS-13, or is this just one person gets into a beef with another and there's a couple of people there?
There was confrontation between the parties involved in this. Aside from that, why that originated, I can't really say. But what I can tell you is that it's a concern for us when we have MS-13 people here, and we have other folks that are here to Loudoun. What we're seeing here in Loudoun County, which is one of the safest counties, certainly in Northern Virginia, one of the safest in the nation. When we're seeing this activity here, it concerns me because it's what we're seeing across the United States. When we're seeing it here, it happening anywhere. So that's why we thought it was important to get this message out so people realize that we've got to keep their eyes and their ears open and let us know when they see something out there that we need to know about because we want to stay on top of all this.
Sure, really,
Did you say that their relationship with their girlfriend, victims? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
The victims were friends with each other.
Sheriff, what teams did you have to learn, and are you looking for additional suspects in this case?
So I have one investigation, as I mentioned, there were potentially others involved. We're still looking at all those aspects of it.
Just like who was here illegally, how long has he been here in violation of the stages of
Give me an idea.
Roughly 2022, but again, we also might want to verify that through the appropriate entities before we comment on the exact.
So we suspect that, yeah, for a couple of years.
Is he Salvadoran or what countries?
So he's from El Salvador? No.
We need to confirm that.
Okay, we're still working on it. We're still working on it. Even though he's MS-13, if he's MS-13, it's not free from us.
Sheriff, you said he self-identified as an MS-13 gang member. Was he also confessed to the crime?
Can't go into all that. We were out on the investigation, still interviewing, conducting interviews, and looking at all that information.
Sheriff, can you clarify the charges he's facing? You said it was second-degree murder and use of a firearm. Was it 2 counts of second-degree murder?
I will,
Who's arraigned this morning on one count?
Is there a reason?
On the firearm charge? I can't answer that question. I will tell you this. As I indicated before, the preliminary hearing is scheduled for December 5th. So in the process, there will be, I anticipate, possibly some pre-trial motions filed. But you'll be able to have more information through the filings that occur and the hearing that occurs on December 15th. We just cannot comment on those types of issues right now.
So, for clarification, it's 1 count of second-degree murder at this moment, correct?
Right.
Which of the victims is he charged in?
Okay. The indication is that it may be the female victim, but I can tell you that that's all I can say. All right?
So one of the murders he's not charged with?
Okay. The answer is, at this point in time, that's what he is charged with. That may change before we go forward with the preliminary hearing.
But that's accurate to say that, he's only been charged with one.
At this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
Is that why, Sharp, you're saying you're still looking into the possibility that others were involved?
I don't think that can be answered. You've got to be careful. We're in a very sensitive situation right now. I mean, we're at the front end of this case. And there's going to be more information that comes out, and it's going to be filed with the court. And you'll be able to get answers to some of these questions.
Was the FBI involved in this investigation at all?
Not a sheriff's department that can answer that question. But to what extent?
No, they were not. I think the important point here, and I think what Attorney Anderson is trying to make, is that we have, it's been an extraordinary amount of work, and these investigations don't just stop at the time of arrest. We continue to develop the investigation leads, look at forensic evidence, look at all the things that are associated with this, and it's quite likely that additional charges will come down the pipe. And at this point, I can't say exactly what that will be, but we are looking at all those kinds of things. But we just want people to know that when you commit a crime like this in Loudoun County, we're not going to stop. We're going to do whatever it takes to get these people behind bars. And we just want to make sure we're doing everything in our power to keep our citizens safe.
Sure. Did you say that you shot and didn't find firearm?
I'm not going to get into the details. There was a firearm that was used, and that was what resulted in a death. But as far as anything more than that, I can't really find.
But you did mention dive teams. Did they recover a gun?
Dive teams were out. Dive teams looked for the weapon, but I can't tell you anything more than that as well.
You know, we're offering a $25,000 reward for donation to the National Wrestling Institute. Is there someone that is eligible for that reward?
I do. And you don't want to collect, Alexander, if he wants to collect. I don't think so. I don't think, we had a lot of leads, but nothing that got us directly to that person. It was just a matter of so much effort by our people and our counterparts here that made it happen. So I don't think there's any one person that actually brought that forward that would qualify for that.
So how big of an issue is MS-13 game here in the county? We don't really get press conferences from you guys regarding it. So I guess how often is this a problem? I guess why now?
So that's why I thought it was important. I can tell you when I was first here in 2012, 2013, we had some gang issues there. When I was first on, it seemed to subside for quite a while, and it seems to me as though we're starting to pick up again. And that's what really concerns me. And that's what we thought was very, very important to get this information out. People need to know that what's going on in other parts of the country, what's happening because of open borders, all these things are impacting everybody in the United States. Every location, has become a border, county, city, town, whatever. And we want to make sure we're doing everything that we can to keep a handle on that. But it is something that really impacts not just us, but everybody.
You said 100, though. I didn't you mentioned before you said 100 people that was fully in cooperation with ICE. Is that 100?
That's honestly, when we arrest people here in Loudoun County, we run it through our systems here, and if they come up with an inquiry for ICE, we notify them, and they have the opportunity to come out and take those folks, and they do. And of those, I think we've had 100 that have actually been reported. I think it's probably closer to 200 that we notified them on, but ICE has come out and actually taken 100 from deportation.
Were they MS-13 members or were they?
I can't tell you that because you're talking about a high volume of people. You have to check with ICE on that, but we do notify them, we cooperate with them, we let them know. We want to make sure that these people are wanted by ICE and they have a history of violent crimes, that we notify them and that they're handled properly and that they're no longer in circulation out here in Loudoun County.
Sheriff, what kind of advice or reassurance do you have for Loudoun County residents who are concerned that there's confirmed MS-13 members in the county?
Well, I would just say to be aware. It's the old say something, see something, say something. But to report suspicious activity, I mean, we're very responsive to our community. We're engaged in all kinds of stuff. We work with religious communities. We do court community involvement, and I think it's because of that community involvement that we have such a requirement here in our town.
Is it suspect that Alexandria resident or Loudoun County?
He's an Alexander resident. No other questions? I do appreciate you coming here. Thank you for telling the story. I think it's a very important story. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.